with Canary Quilts, and we are on week 7 of the Tula Pink Sunshine Daydream quilt. And if you're new here, that's what we're building. And we've been building it for the last 6 weeks, and this is our last few steps before we put it together. So today we're doing what I think they're calling ring 3. It's just this beautiful rainbow section. One of the biggest sections of the quilt is what we're doing today. And this looks really difficult, but it is not. I showed you how to put together one of these sections. Let's see, one of these sections last week. And then we put together 2 of the sections. And those went together really much simpler than I thought. What we did this week is we took 2 sections and added it to another 2 sections to get a 4-section piece, and that gives us 6 sections in the end. 3 sections make up a half a circle, so a lot of math there, I guess. The 2 sections and add it to the next 2 sections. I show you how I do that. They tell you in the pattern how to do it, and I understand how they want to do it. It just didn't work for me. So I'm going to show you how I do it so that I can get some really good points. I can get all of these edges to line up and these edges to line up here. So I show you how I do that today, and once I show you once, the whole entire quilt, not the whole quilt, the whole entire ring is done exactly the same way. So you just need to make sure you're getting the right colors together, and the chart in the pattern does a very good job of showing you or telling you how to do that. And then they do have like a chart of how to put the ring together, which is pretty easy. And then once you learn how to sew one of these sections together, the entire thing goes together exactly the same way. So I'm gonna walk through that real quick today and show you how to put together this beautiful ring. If you're new here and you wanna watch how this goes together, or if you're interested in doing it, I have links down below for the quilt. The quilt comes with the pattern and the binding and all the fabrics, but it does not come with the backing. And I have a link to that down below. There is some paper piecing in the beginning of this. I walked through that. It's not that hard, and they're very big pieces. And you can hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you get notified when we finish this beautiful thing, which will be next week. It's so exciting. I can't believe we're here. I'd appreciate it if you check out the links below. It really does help the channel out. Hit subscribe, notify, and let's get started on making this beautiful ring 3. So to get started on our step 12 and 13, you need to grab all these pairs that we did last week. And I had you letter them so we know what they are, because we're going to use those letters this week. So that's what I have over here are the pairs that I have not put together. And over here I have the pairs that I have put together. So here's a PK and a KH. And that's what it looks like. And there's going to be 2 of each. So I've done a few of these to get used to how to do them. I've had to use a seam ripper, so don't be afraid of that. And I found that by doing it the way of the pattern, it didn't work very well for me. So I'm going to show you how I did it so that I can get it lined up here. These points look good, and it lines up here. So I'm going to show you how I do that. But what we're going to be doing to start is step 12, and it's going to tell you to take, the next one we have is LD and DP. So I'm going to take these. I've got 2 left to do, and I'm going to show you how I put them together into pairs like this. So what they want you to do is they tell you which unit is on the bottom, and for this one, LD is the bottom unit. And the way they have it here, it's laying like this. So I am going to take one of these off. I'm going to leave LD on the one that I'm not using, and the same over here, DP on the one I'm not using. So this is the bottom unit, this is the top unit. They're going to go together like this. So we basically need to flip them, and we're going to start down here. So I'm going to do this, and they're going to look all pretty, splayed away from each other. So what they want you to do in the pattern is match dots. Well, I can't see my dots. I tried remarking them. It didn't work well for me. And by working with dots, we're just going to be sewing one section at a time. So we're going to sew this section, we're going to leave our needle in, and we're going to pivot so we turn and do this section. Same with the top section. So we're working in 3 sections. So I'm just going to concentrate on this section down here, and I'm going to show you what I did. I need a clip, or you'll need a clip or a pin. And I lined up my bottom gray piece here so that my seam, or the point to my seam right here, is on this line. I am using my measuring, or my cutting table. So I have it here, and these need to cross so that when you stop, you're going to be at this point in here, which is 1/4 of an inch. So if you take this seam and put it on the 1/2 inch, probably hard to see, here's my seam. I'm going to lay it down so it goes right on that 1/2 inch, so that now these 2 seams will cross, and 1/4 of an inch will be where I stop. So if I stop at my seam, sewing right here at my seam, I should be at 1/4 of an inch, and it should give me a pretty point. Like this one. So then I just work backwards from that point, line up my edges, pin them, line up my edge down here. And then now I'm going to go over to my sewing machine, use my 1/4 inch foot, and I'm going to sew from down here all the way up, and I'm going to stop right at my seam with needle down. So let's go over to the machine and let's do that. Okay, I'm over here at my machine. I'm going to put my fabric in from the bottom. And I'm going to line my 1/4 of an inch up with the edge over here, and I'm going to start sewing. And I'm going to stop when I get to my seam. You probably can't see it, but that's where my seam is. I've got needle down now. So what I want to do now is I've got to line up over here at the machine. I've got to line these up the same way, and I have a ruler to do that. So gets a little awkward, and I got a camera in my face, but this is how I did it. I put the bottom one on the 1/2 inch mark. I'm going to take my top seam and put it at the edge of my ruler. So I have got a 1/2 inch between the end of this seam and the end of this seam. And I am going to pin it before I lose it. So there. Now we are going to carefully turn our fabric. I'm going to pin it in the middle. And now we're going to follow this seam on the 1/4 of an inch and stop at the seam allowance up there. There's the seam allowance. I'm going to pick it up, and then we are just going to line up our seams. This is what I've been doing. It's easier when I don't have a camera, but I'm just lining my seams up. And then we're going to pivot down here again and do a 1/4 inch seam. There we go. Let's go see how we did. Okay, let's see. Ooh, look at how good that turned out. Okay, so we had to be mindful of these 2 points, but we have to be mindful of this here and this down here. So it all came out. So I just found that was the easier way to do it. It seems a little awkward, but I think using the point method was, I was way off trying to do that. So I just found that method for me, and I wanted to show you how to do it. Then you iron towards the top piece. And there, that's how you get your 2 pieces sewn together. That's how I did that. So I'm going to finish mine up, and then we're going to come back and we're going to put all of them together in a ring. And I believe that's going to be exactly the same way. So there you go. Okay, I finished all my ring sections that we did over here. Now we're actually going to take those sections and put them together, and I did that here. So I took this section and this section, and we put them together, and we literally put them together exactly like we did the last one, except they're just bigger sections that you're putting together. So what you're basically going for to make sure you get it together correctly is you want these to be like every other one. So when you're putting together, that's a good guide also to make sure that it's going correctly. And I didn't get any butterflies that are the same together, so that's good news. That's what it looks like. So it's really the same exact technique I did before. You're just working with bigger pieces. Oops, I got my templates. I don't know where those came from. So the next one I'm going to do is, let's see, I did these, are these 2 right here. So we've got the GE one, which is right here. So I'm going to put one of these aside. And then I'm going to take one of the FG units, which is right here. And I'm going to take that and put it aside. So it will go together like this. And you can see these are opposite. So if you lay them out the way they're going to go, according to the book right here, I'm laying it out exactly like the book, where the gray's over here and the butterflies are over here. This means this will be the bottom piece, and we're going to flip this one over and put it together just like we did the other one. So I'm going to put my end of my seam on the inch line, and then take this seam and put it over here on the 1/2 inch line, so I have a 1/2 inch in between the ends of my seams and work it down and sew that first section together just like we did before. And then exactly like I did before, I'm gonna put my seams these seams a half an inch apart, pivot, sew these, and then sew this. So I showed you how to do that before, and it's exactly the same way. So I'm gonna get started putting these together, and we'll look at them when I get done. There we go. Once you get the hang of how you're doing it, it goes pretty fast. So we've got our opposites here, and we're good to go. So I'm going to finish the second one of these. I've got the pink and the orange left to do, and then we're going to put even bigger pieces together exactly the same way until we get a circle. So I'll meet you back here. There we go. Got those two sections together. I'm calling pink and orange. This one I'll call green and blue. And this one I'll call yellow and green. So now we have to put these together to start forming our circle. And that's going to go together exactly the same way, and kind of go through how we have to do that. So, okay, I thought it'd be best to show you the half circle over here on my design wall because it's so big. And here's a section, here's a section, and here's a section. And what I wanted to do, if you remember in the beginning, was make sure that my sections didn't have the same butterflies next to each other. So I put my sections together so they wouldn't have the same butterflies. But then it was going to be a big deal when we put our sections together. I know a lot of sections here. But anyway, these are the three sections I'm going to put together for a half circle. And you can see that the butterfly here and here are different, and here are different. So that was my goal. But we also have to make sure that when we put the other half circle together over here by the pink and by the blue, that we're going to have different butterflies. So let's go over here. This is going to be the section of the other half circle that goes together, and you can see my butterflies are different, so that's good. And then over here, I need this one. Yeah, you can see it right here. These butterflies are going to be different also. So we're doing good. Anyway, this is how this is going to go together, from orange to green to blue. And the other one, the other half is exactly the same, orange to green to blue. And then we're going to come back and put the two sections together right there and right there to get our ring number 3. And then we put the quilt together. Whew! So, this isn't hard. Putting these 3 sections together is exactly the same as putting 2 of these together in the beginning when I showed you that. So it's exactly the same procedure, exactly the same sewing. It's just bigger pieces you're working with. So okay, let's go back to the sewing machine and put this thing together. Okay, so if you don't have a big design wall, and I don't even have a big one, but the pattern shows you right here also how to put these sections together. This half of the pattern tells you how to put the 2 sections together to each other, and then this shows when you end up with the 3 sections right here. And then I was showing you how I'm trying not to put the same butterfly next to each other. So back here at my sewing table, I'm ready to put the sections together. I'm going to start with this pink-orange section on the left. The next section is going to be the yellow-green section on the right. And you can always tell because these will be next to each other all the way across. So if you don't have 2 matching fabrics next to each other, you've got the wrong piece of fabric. So we're going to put it together just like we did before. This will be my bottom piece, and I'm going to flip this over because I want my gray on the bottom. so that when I line this up and I put my point right here on the inch line, I can take this seam and put it on the 1/2 inch line. It's just easier for me to see. So I've got a 1/2 inch between the end of this seam on the left and the end of this seam on the right. And I'm going to clip it, and then I'm going to work my fabric down exactly the same way as I showed you for the first sections. So I'm going to get working. Alright, I know it's hard to tell, but I do have my 3 sections built to make 1/2 of a circle here and here. So now we just have to put our 2 half circles together, and they're going to be joined just like that. So you know you're right when you've got these 2 next to each other. And look, our butterflies are different. So I did good. So same thing, except you're just working with more fabric. Line up your seams. This is how I'm doing it. Line up your seams so they're 1/2 inch apart, the end of your seams. And it is harder because you got so much more fabric tugging at you. There you go. I'm going to pin it, and then I'm going to take it over to my machine. Sew this first section, pivot, work on the next section. Put these seams a 1/2 inch apart. Sew to the seam, pivot, and then sew the rest of this. So just a lot of the same, just different sizes of material you're putting together through this process. So here it is. It's too big to show you at the sewing table, so I hung it up here for you to see. It really was the same putting this all together. So you just, and especially when you put the 2 halves together, there's only one way it's going to go. So you don't have to worry about matching up fabrics or anything like that. But yeah, turned out great. So let me know how it's going for you. Let me know if you're just watching. You want to see how it goes together, and if you're interested, I do have a link down below for the patterns. So hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and you'll watch me finish this up next week. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!